Hi guys, welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. I'm so glad that you've joined me today because we're going to be considering a wonderful topic, how to conduct a monitoring and evaluation assessment. Okay, sorry I didn't put assessment there. I don't know how I missed that, but that's what we're going to be doing in the next 10 to 20 minutes. In case you don't know me, my name is Coach Alexander. If you're here for the very first time, I've been doing this for a very long time. I enjoy every moment of monitoring and evaluation. I know that I've been doing it for at least 10 years, and I know it could be even some months over the 10 years. So now, as usual, I'm selling these. Actually, it's really branded items just so that you can support this channel, because we want this channel to continue running. We want to continue giving you the best content that anybody can give. So please support this channel by buying these branded items. We've got the face masks, we've got the t-shirts. They are all going at an affordable price. And in case you haven't bought, in case you haven't got these very free ebooks, the link is in the description below. These are totally free, no strings attached. Just get them and read them. They're very beneficial. Then, as usual, my favorite course, the best course I've ever done, the best course I've ever produced in this world, is how to set up a monitoring and evaluation system step-by-step guide. It's being hosted on Udemy, so please do well to enroll in this course if you can. It's very cheap. And then there's something happening on the 23rd of April, and I want you to be there, guys. It's a special launch. Okay, I wouldn't say launch, but there's something I want to show you. A very good software is out there, guys, and I want you to be part of this because I'm going to be introducing to you a very good software, and I'll show you how to use it. So please set a date with me for that walkthrough. As usual, this is a very long video, but take full advantage of the timestamps because the timestamps are going to make your life easier. You don't have to watch the whole video word for word. All you have to do is just click on the timestamps and you go straight to the part of this video that is very interesting to you. So without wasting more time, let's get straight into business. Okay, so what is a monitoring and evaluation assessment? All right, so now the thing is that this is a very special assessment that is done in order to give you an idea of what actually is happening in an organization in terms of M&E. Oftentimes we tend to miss that there are certain things that an M&E system has to have in an organization, but they are not there. Sometimes, these are the things we overlook, such as having the right tools and having those tools measure the right things in the first place. So this assessment is mainly just giving you an idea of what is on the ground in an organization in terms of monitoring and evaluation. Do they have the personnel? If they have the personnel, are they the correct personnel? Do they have a budget? Do they have policies? Do they have guidelines? It's more like an audit, but I like to say an assessment because when you're doing an assessment, an audit is usually done when the system is already running, but this assessment is done prior to the establishment of a system, prior to the establishment of a M&E system, or it could be that you want to upgrade the already existing system. Okay, so now let me explain this. It brings me to this point of explaining why do we do these monitoring and evaluation assessments. Okay, so we do this in order to assess the capacity, the organization's capacity to implement M&E. So when we talk of capacity, I'm sure you all know by now, we're talking about the personnel. Do we have the personnel to actually do this job? But if we have the personnel, are they doing the right thing? I've seen a lot of times, sometimes you have people who actually studied M&E, but when it comes to performance on the job, it leaves much to be desired. So sometimes it could be that they lack certain skills. Of course, they have the papers, they have the qualifications, no doubt about that. But it could be they lack certain skills. And those are the skills you want to see whether they are actually using them well. And then if they are not having them, if they don't have these skills, such as the use of SPSS, such as the use of Excel, then it means that you need to have a training. And based on the assessment findings, you recommend a training and you train your staff and you fill in the gap, you resolve the issues. The M&E assessment is also done to assess the weaknesses in the current M&E infrastructure. So obviously there are weaknesses in most M&E systems around the globe, and nothing is perfect. That's one thing we need to understand. But the whole point is that we shouldn't look at this activity as a fault-finding mission. It's never a fault-finding mission, but it's there because we want to improve. Because eventually when the system is improved, when it's up and running, when it's great, there's so much it can do for you and your organization. And then, like I mentioned earlier on, that the assessment will help in development of a new M&E system or to upgrade an already existing one. I'm trying to avoid the use of readiness assessment, because the readiness assessment, especially for those of you who are my students in the coaching program, the readiness assessment is really about it's really done prior to the actual setup of what you have as a system. So it could also be done as an upgrade, but usually it's done before you actually set up. You are talking about an organization that doesn't have a system in place. Sorry, I'm diverting a bit. I wanted to talk about some organizations. If you ask an organization whether they have a system, many of them will say they have an M&E system. But let me tell you one thing. They don't have an M&E system. What they have is actually a reporting system. And those are two different things. And you come to realize that M&E reporting, they are similar, but M&E is really about continuous improvement and learning. But a reporting system, you just generate a report, it ends there. And there isn't really learning, you're just giving a picture of what is there. Okay, so how is the monitoring and evaluation assessment done? Okay, and I want to talk about this. Of course, when you read a lot of books out there, they're going to give you quite a number of things. But I think from my experience, it is summed up in just a few steps. Of course, you can expand those steps, you can include, you can try to make them look cosmetically great, but they're just a few steps. Get it from me. The first step is the desk review. And surprisingly, everywhere, most of these assessments, it starts with a desk review. Even the financial audits that happen in your organization start with a desk review. So what are you reviewing? So you're looking at the organization's project documents, strategic plans, organization structure, reports, minutes. You're just looking at everything. And the reason why you do this is because you just want to learn about them, especially if you're a consultant. It works well when you just read. You do a lot of reading. And I like to look at a desk review as being the most important part of the whole process, because whatever information you're reading about is actually the true picture. So if you pick up some minutes in some management files somewhere and you find that in those minutes two people were arguing with each other, then I mean, that's what it is. People like fighting in those in that organization. That's the picture. But of course, if you find other interesting things which are relevant to the system, which are relevant to issues to do with data collection, analysis, and reporting, it can give you a picture of what it is they actually have in place. And that is our area of interest, really. It is to understand what is it that they are actually using and how are they using it. If they are having a reporting system in place, is it digital or is it paper-based or is it both? Interviews with staff and other organization personnel is now what we call the actual hands-on data collection phase. So what you're doing here is you're asking questions, all right? And interestingly, I've done a lot of interviews in my lifetime. Okay, I say that as if I'm really old, but I'm quite young. But anyway, because I have to tell you this, that people will feed you different information. That is one thing we need to understand. And the level of information, the level of truth, the level of reliability of the information they give you is controlled by a number of factors. You won't expect an employee to outrightly tell you that they're unhappy with the things that are happening in an organization, because they risk losing their jobs, or they risk being bullied at work by maybe their bosses. So it becomes very prudent for you to actually be skillful when you're interviewing staff. You need to be diplomatic, and you need to also be neutral. Okay, so you just have to be tactful. You just have to be also quite level-headed when you're actually asking the questions. Because take for instance, you definitely won't ask them, are you happy with management? Because they're all going to say yes. So you just have to find a better way of trying to gather the true picture. Like, how often is information reported on? Okay, that's one question you can ask. Are reports generated according to the agreed approved work plan? That's another way you can ask. Do stakeholders and management sit down regularly to discuss ways to improve organization performance? Those are good questions, and you're not offending anybody, because if management has endorsed a work plan, they should be following that work plan. So people will observe, people will know that, okay, according to our findings, management is not actually fulfilling what is in the work plan. And they'll just tell you the truth. And it ends there. You need to analyze the findings. Okay, so the findings are critical, because based on what you've gathered, you need to be able to interpret and articulate what does all the information you've gathered actually mean. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Okay, it's sometimes tricky to... Okay, actually, one thing I can just say is that, let's not even say, is it a bad or good thing? Because bad and good is relative. But what would really make sense is if we use negative, positive, because then we can clearly say that based on the targets, this is positive. What we found was positive. They are actually implementing something that they are using to improve performance. I have to also mention that an organization may have a system in place, except that they don't really know that it's an M&E system. They may not fully realize actually that it's an M&E system, because, for instance, it doesn't always mean that they need to have the guidelines and policies. Those are very important, yes. But when you're doing this assessment, you can actually be able to detect that they have something running, except that it is not fully developed because it lacks certain things. An important thing you need to realize is that the M&E system is about learning and improvement. That's all. So it's not a reporting system, it's a learning and improvement model. And that is what we need to remember. So if reports are being generated and management are not making decisions based on those reports, then they don't even have a system. If they're not bringing in evaluators to assess program or project performance, then it's not an M&E system. A component is missing. And that's what you need to really communicate when you analyze these findings. So, of course, you need to have a meeting with these people and tell them that actually these were my findings and this is what I have actually discovered. This is what these findings mean. So do you all agree? Everyone has to agree for us to move forward, for you to move forward. But if there are a bit of reservations, then you have to iron them out, because then after you have concluded, after you've agreed on the findings and analysis, that's when you can come up with the recommendations. So agree on a roadmap. What is the roadmap? The roadmap is the schedule of activities that will help you build a system, or a schedule that will help you upgrade the system. Okay? So everybody needs to be on board. There shouldn't be any reservations. If there are reservations, you need to iron them out. If certain people in the team are not agreeable, you need to iron them out. So normally, when you have an M&E system built, it takes time. It also takes time because, the time actually depends on your findings. So if you're going to build a system, we shouldn't expect to do things fast, everything fast, because you want to please people. The normal way to do things is, when you have a roadmap in place, you set up the infrastructure for the M&E system. So that means, what I'm saying is, you build the tools, you have the guidelines, the policies in place. And I have to tell you that writing a policy is hard work. And I'm pretty sure there's a gentleman who approached me. We are doing a policy together, and he will tell you what is actually happening, that building a policy is hard work. There's a lot of back and forth. So it can take a month to build guidelines, to build policies. It can take 2 months, 3 months. After you have everything in place, you need to pilot test everything. You need to pilot test the whole system. Take it for a test drive. After you've pilot tested and you've corrected everything that needs to be corrected, then can you actually launch it? So now, you did the M&E assessment. Remember, there were 3 reasons why you should do the M&E assessment, but those are non-exhaustive, okay? But we look at those 3 reasons. For instance, you want to assess capacity after you've done the M&E assessment. You realize that actually the staff need capacity building. So you need to undertake the M&E trainings with your staff. So you train them. If it's SPSS they don't know about, you train them in that. If it's Excel they don't know about, you train them in that. The next thing is to resolve the weaknesses. So whatever weaknesses you found, such as for instance, you find out that the organization doesn't even have a budget for M&E. So you need to resolve that. You need to sensitize the management that we need an allocation for this. All right. As an M&E champion, you just have to do it. You just have to tell them. It's not easy. Sometimes they say, no, we can't do this because, but you have to tell them the importance. Next is next you develop or upgrade the M&E system. So the upgrade, let me talk about the upgrade just for a minute. Most organizations have paper-based systems, but many are actually migrating to a digital. I have to tell you this, guys, that digital migration is essential. But it doesn't mean that when you migrate to digital, don't be tempted to put your digital platform with so much information in it. Information you won't even use, because it will just lead to the collapse of the M&E system. What I usually recommend is that you start small and build, learn, build until you become perfect at what you do. Okay, so thank you guys. I really enjoyed this nice interaction with you. I've been your host, Coach Alexander, and see you on the other side.